The one with all the fun. The Fairchild Video Entertainment System at your larger JCPenney. The home entertainment system that never gets old. Plug in a new video card and change the fun. Play tic-tac-toe, shooting gallery, or just doodle. Switch video cards and play Desert Fox. Switch again, it's blackjack. Or play the two built-in games, Pro Hockey or Tennis Champ. Channel F for fun. The Fairchild Video Entertainment System, just $169.95. Video card cartridges, $19.95 each. At your larger JCPenney. The one with all the fun. The Fairchild Video Entertainment System at your larger JCPenney. The home entertainment system that never gets old. Plug in a new video card and change the fun. Play tic-tac-toe, shooting gallery, or just doodle. Switch video cards and play Desert Fox. Switch again, it's blackjack. Or play the two built-in games, Pro Hockey or Tennis Champ. Channel F for fun. The Fairchild Video Entertainment System, just $169.95. Video card cartridges, $19.95 each. At your larger JCPenney.
It all started with the name.
We wrote down a list of names, and Atari was the third on the list. And I looked at it and said, it's okay.
That developed into a legacy.
Well, when you think about video games, Atari is the word. Atari was the first,
Nintendo.
the boldest, the most broadly disseminated game name that was ever done.
At times, they were unstoppable.
And there's a Pong on the ferry boat. Oh my God, it's everywhere. Oh God, what have I done?
And there were times filled with turmoil.
E.T. was not a good idea. The game was programmed in 6 weeks, and as you probably know, most of them wound up in a landfill.
And there was lots of partying.
Coke sort of came into vogue right about that time, and so it went through Atari as well.
This is the unbelievable true story of the rise and fall of the most famous video game company in the world. It's the story of In the late 60s, an unknown industry begins to evolve. Engineer Ralph Baer receives the first video game patent for his version of video table tennis and develops the first home video gaming system, the Brown Box.
Ralph Baer started peddling his game in around 1970. Couldn't find a buyer, went to RCA, went to Zenith, and it took a few years before Magnavox picked it up.
Baer signs a contract with Magnavox, and the system is renamed the Odyssey.
Magnavox and Sanders, which was the company that Ralph Baer worked for, were showing off the game, their new product. This is in January 1972. And Nolan Bushnell went to see this product, and he signed a guest book that he was there, and he saw the Magnavox Odyssey, and he wasn't impressed with it.
Nolan Bushnell, a University of Utah graduate and engineer, moves out to California and hooks up with friend Ted Dabney.
And if you're going to be an electrical engineer, and it's the late 60s, early 70s, you're going to be in Silicon Valley, in the center of the action.
And with $250 from a savings account, they formed their first company. It's called Syzygy.
Syzygy, no one can pronounce it.
In 1971, technology isn't exactly peaking.
One of the first uses of the computer video screen, somebody programmed a game called Space War.
But Syzygy still manages to develop their very first coin-operated video game called Computer Space.
Computer Space was the first game, and what I was trying to do was really bring Space War to a cost point.
Computer Space is a commercial failure. And in 1972, Nolan Bushnell changes the name of his company.
We wrote down a list of names, and I remember that Atari was the third on the list. And I looked at it and said, it's okay.
Atari starts development on their second video game, one with a very simple concept.
So, Computer Space did not do well. It was too complex for people at that time. So he wanted to come out with a simpler game.
So he challenged me to do a ping pong game.
I told him I wanted to go.
A very simple one-moving spot, like the Magnavox Odyssey. I suspect he'd seen the Magnavox Odyssey, knew it wasn't a very good game the way Magnavox had it done, but it was to be nothing to be simpler.
And what could be more simpler than ball bouncing and two paddles hitting it?
And the title is just like the game.
We named Pong just because we couldn't know a ping pong game, and so we just truncated it and called it Pong.
Well, Nolan, that's the gene. Well, let's put it in the box. And put it with a coin mech on the side of the box, very simple. Went to Walgreens, got a black and white TV, made a monitor out of it, and put it in the handicap staff room, one of our locations over the weekend to see what happened. The rest is history.
But before Atari can begin celebrating, they're slapped with a lawsuit.
Magnavox went around showing this toy before they put it on the market in very closed sessions, and Nolan Bushnell attended one of those closed sessions and beat everyone to market by a few months with Pong.
So Magnavox sued Atari and Nolan Bushnell, and they proved that Nolan Bushnell was at this meeting in Burlingame, California, and he did sign his book in the guest book, and he did see a video game table tennis before it came out. So they settled out of court. And what they settled for, I think, was Atari got the rights to video games for $100,000. That was it. And then they made a killing after that.
Pong becomes a nationwide phenomenon. Soon after, Ted Dabney decides to move on and sells his share of the company to Bushnell. Although copycats are popping up everywhere, by the end of 1972, Atari still reports earnings of $3.2 million, thanks to the success of Pong. And Nolan Bushnell moves forward with another idea.
But then it came time to do consumer Pong. And everyone says, oh, yeah, boy, what a great idea.
So I figured, okay, I'll do consumer Pong. I'll show them. We'll see how far we get with this thing. We'll bankrupt the company. Because how can we launch a consumer product with nothing? We have no backing, no equity, no. It's crazy. I remember the day we got the consumer chip to work, and it was like, it felt like a dog chasing a car. You caught it, now what do you do with it?
Well, you try and sell it.
So we called Chicago, Sears Tower, cold call, and got Tom Quinn, the buyer, the right guy, and he was there in 3 days, and thank God for Tom Quinn. We were in Exertus.
Sears signs on as an exclusive distributor for home Pong, and it flies off the shelves. Atari reaches $40 million in sales, $3 million in profits, and Pong is out of control, selling more than 150,000 units. Atari owns the video game industry with their home version of Pong, but competition, wild parties, and Bushnell's departure will soon become a major part of this company's history. With Atari's release of the home version of Pong, the young company is making millions and having a blast while doing so.
We had this camaraderie that was us young guys, and remember, it was just after the 60s, so the age of Aquarius, don't trust anyone over 30.
People came to work whenever they wanted, and they picked what topic they were going to do games on.
People would sit around, literally get down, and start brainstorming ideas for games and things like that. It was very much a part of the creative process.
It was also a time where we didn't worry that much about legal liability, getting drunk and going home. Almost everybody went home with everybody else. Sexual harassment or things like that wasn't an issue.
As time went on, as more and more money came into the environment, the class and quality of the drugs tended to increase substantially. Coke sort of came into vogue right about that time anyway.
Experiencing a cash flow problem for the upcoming Christmas season, Nolan sells Atari to Warner Communications in 1976 for $28 million.
A lot of people don't realize that when you have a successful company, that a growing company actually consumes cash. You can very seldom throw off cash fast enough to grow as fast as you want to. So it was either take the company public or sell it to somebody with really deep pockets.
But now that Atari has sold its soul to Warner, things inside the company begin to drastically change.
When Warner Communications took over, all of a sudden it became this big corporation. This is the way you're going to work. You have to wear suits. You have to come in at this time. You have to leave at this time.
Atari, under Nolan Bushnell, its motto was innovative leisure. Under Warner, it was really Atari VCS company, and that's a big difference.
With a change in atmosphere, Atari goes on to develop Stella, a prototype console that accepts cartridges. It's Atari's response to Fairchild's programmable Channel F home video game system.
So there were a lot of arcade games out there, particularly Atari arcade games. And what they wanted to do, one of their marketing strategies was, let's take these successful arcade games into the home and sell home versions.
What Atari had that the other companies didn't have was a stock of arcade titles that they were able to use.
In 1977, Atari releases the VCS, later to be renamed the 2600, with a retail price of $200 and a library of 9 games.
So we introduced it, and you could just feel it in the air. The product was so revolutionary, everybody knew it. It felt great.
Atari enjoys strong sales in 1978 and a fantastic holiday season, and releases more games like Outlaw, Space War, and the fan favorite, Breakout. Internally, however, Atari is at odds, and the man that formed the company decides to leave.
There were so many vulnerabilities that the company had, and it seemed like nobody at Warner was aware of them. And I felt that if they were bound to be determined to go down these foolish roads, then I didn't want to do it.
New CEO Ray Kassar moves in, but not with open arms. Meanwhile, several programmers are getting fed up with the lack of credit for their games and the management of Mr. Kassar.
When we asked for credit for it, we were turned down pretty flatly. In fact, we were told that we were no important to that process than the person on the assembly line to put them together. And they couldn't get their names on the games.
So 4 guys make a decision that will change the video game industry forever.
There were 4 of us at Atari who worked together, went to lunch together with this little group of 4 guys. We just sit down one day and said, we could do this. Why don't we design a video game and market them ourselves? And it wasn't all that easy, of course, but that's Activision again.
This is Pitfall, the Starship video game by Activision.
Activision becomes the first third-party software developer for the 2600 and releases such hits as Pitfall and Fishing Derby.
Get it before they're all gone. Pitfall, designed by David Crane.
Atari goes on to release 2 more great games for the 2600, Space Invaders and Asteroids.
Atari licensed Space Invaders from Taito in 1980 for the VCS, and this was the first game ever to be licensed from another company. And that was just a huge hit for Atari. That's what basically sold the VCS. Then, of course, Asteroids, that was their second big hit, again, based on the arcade game.
When it comes to space games, nobody compares to Atari.
By 1982, the video game industry becomes a horse race between the 2600, Intellivision, and Coleco.
You'll see amazing graphics. Like this.
Atari releases Pac-Man and E.T. for the VCS, 2 incredibly hyped games, which are critical flops as well as commercial failures.
And it got to the point where Atari's attitude was, we put anything out, it's going to sell.
Great, send I don't know how many $1 million to Spielberg for the name. What? And now we had to go make a title out of it.
The game was programmed in 6 weeks.
Somehow that cartridge got built, it just didn't play well.
They manufactured more copies of E.T. than there were Atari 2600s in existence. Not a good idea. And as you probably know, most of them wound up in a landfill.
Pac-Man is probably considered one of the worst games of all time. E.T., no disrespect to Howard Warsaw developed them, but they were terrible games.
Atari, needing cash, re-releases the 2600, but the masses aren't buying it. With a string of bad decisions, Atari finds itself in a tailspin. Al Alcorn is gone, and stock in Warner drops 33%.
The whole ambience of Atari changed, and very rapidly. And they began selling off divisions, their computers did sell.
But things at Atari are only getting worse.
I didn't know. This move plays only on the Atari 5200 Super System. And now,
In 1982, Atari introduces the 5200 to the gaming public,
now you're talking.
and it bombs.
Atari came out with the 5200, which was really developed as a competition for Intellivision.
Look at Atari basketball. And Intellivision. I think Intellivision plays much more like real basketball.
But you think ColecoVision plays all Atari cartridges?
By the time this release, it was competition for the ColecoVision.
And we bring the arcade experience home.
But I think the ColecoVision games were better. They looked truer to the real games. Of course, when the 2600's lifespan ran out and they had to go to the 5200, the American consumer went, wait a minute, I've had the same record player for 25 years, the same television set, 25 years. Why are you suddenly telling me now that after like 4 years, 5 years, I've got to trade in this game system for a whole new game system? This is a very difficult concept to get across.
Christmas '83 sees a glut of inferior games, and 600 Atari employees are laid off. But the scrappy company's not giving up just yet. In 1984, they announced the release of the 7800 and promised more 2600 games with improved graphics and sound. Unfortunately, the improved 2600 games are never released, and Atari ends up selling their home video game division to former Commodore CEO Jack Tramiel.
Jack Tramiel actually ruined Atari. He wanted to make Atari a computer company, no more games. The 7800 was announced but never released. The warehouses were full of them, but he wanted nothing to do with them.
In 1985, Nintendo shows up, and Atari misses a huge opportunity.
When Nintendo came out with the NES, they were afraid of Atari, because Atari had global dominance. So they approached Atari to give Atari the rights to the NES outside Japan. Atari didn't take it. Then Nintendo took over. Atari decides, well, we have all this warehouse full of 2600, 700s, let's sell them. So their heart really wasn't into games. They just had the games, let's try to make some money with it.
The release of the 7800 is sloppy, few stores carry it, and the system fails. In 1988, Atari makes a shocking decision and rehires Bushnell with hopes that using his name will increase sales.
Well, you know, I was just a consultant. I just did a couple projects for him, and I had a creative team. And in some ways, Atari was so over at the time, you know, in terms of being on the cutting edge, that it was nostalgic. It was not rewarding.
I like Link, the bigger. I like Link, more to play at the same time.
In 1989, Atari goes head-to-head with Nintendo once again and releases the Lynx, their first portable video game system, against Nintendo's Game Boy.
I like Game Boy.
The Lynx is more expensive and heavier. And Nintendo ends up the holiday winner. 1991 marks the last year Atari will see a solid profit from operations.
Nintendo reinvented the world. Nintendo showed that people still wanted entertainment, they still wanted fun, they still wanted games.
But Atari isn't giving up. They released the Jaguar, a system with a CD-ROM attack with Pro Controller and some marquee titles like Primal Rage and NBA Jam Tournament. But it's too little, too late. They announced they will merge with hardware manufacturer JTS and discontinue supporting the Jaguar.
Atari Jaguar. Suddenly, nothing else seems fun anymore.
Hasbro Interactive bought Atari for $5 million. It was the beginning of the retro craze. They started releasing all the old Atari games, but in updated versions of it. And of course, they didn't do a good job.
In 2001, French-owned Infogrames purchases Hasbro Interactive, obtaining the Atari name in the process.
Atari means so much to people who grew up in that age. Atari is video games. You see the Atari logo, it means something. To younger people today who might buy an Atari game, it's just a name on a box. They have no idea what it means.
Regardless of where Atari is today, people around the world will always remember it for what it was and what it began.
Oh, I think it was wonderful. My experience with Atari was one of the best times of my life because people were fun, the challenges were fun. We did not take ourselves that seriously. We played games with other people, other industries.
And no matter what terms these guys left on, they are all proud to have worked at Atari.
Well, when you think about video games, Atari is the word. It's the name. Atari was the first and the boldest, the most broadly disseminated game name that was ever done.
And you never know what the future will hold.
So now Infogrames taking the Atari name, and I think they're disassociating it from the entire catalog they have, and they're releasing brand new games with the Atari logo. Which is nice. Atari is now a new company again, which is what it was in the beginning.
Here's an easy question for you. Which of these games is the closest thing to the real thing? A, Intellivision Major League Baseball. B, Atari Baseball. Here they are again, close up. A, Intellivision. B, Atari. If you thought A, Intellivision, you're absolutely correct. You see, I told you this question was easy.
Plimpton.
I bet it's great doing all those Intellivision commercials. I bet you get to keep all the games. Me and my friends like Night Stalker the best. Bats are real scary.
Here, your friends won't have this new one. Lock and Chase.
They won't believe this. Would you autograph it for me?
Certainly. What's your name?
My name?
What?
Floyd here claims to have had a close encounter. So we wanted to get his reaction to Intellivision Space Battle.
That's it. It happened just like that. There's a difference of in. Someone knows explosion. I'll never forget it, Mr. Plinkin.
Thanks, Floyd. Intellivision Space Battle. You may never come closer to a close encounter.
Ain't you listen?
Well, welcome back to the Centre for Computing History. I'm Phil. We're here again with Adrian.
Hello.
We dug around in the archive and we came up with this little beauty.
Yes, so we've done a couple of Nintendo consoles now, so we thought it's time that Sega had a look in. So this is the first Sega console, the SG-1000. It was released on exactly the same day as the Famicom.
Its great rival.
In Japan. One was incredibly successful and one wasn't. And to give you a clue, this was not the successful one.
You don't see many of them around, even though Sega were a bit more popular back in the day in the UK at least.
This machine really did not do terribly well. I think it eventually sold a couple of million, mainly in Japan. It was released in other territories.
tempted fate with his outrageous statements.
They said, you know, I can earn it faster than I can just away. You should never do that.
He earned and spent a fortune.
I thought it was great fun to have houses inside Aspen, Georgetown, and Paris.
And stirred controversy along the way.
It was really one of the first pornographic games I ever saw.
His ideas were ahead of their time.
My question was, why do you want a robot to go get beer out of the refrigerator?
And he was banned from the business he loved.
I had no idea that I didn't want to leave Atari. It just was on the radar screen.
But Nolan Bushnell is best known for creating a game that launched an industry.
I wanted the ping pong game. I wanted to go. He grew up in Norman in Utah, and he had 3 sisters. He was the only boy.
The only boy faces a painful loss at a very young age. His dad, who runs a construction company, dies suddenly, leaving Nolan fatherless.
My dad and I were very close, and then I kind of felt cheated. He was kind of lost into the position of being kind of breadwinner and the responsible one. He didn't grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth. You just know that this is a guy whose own energy got him where he is.
He works at an amusement park while earning an electrical engineering degree from the University of Utah.
I was manager of the games department at 19 years old. I knew the economics of game business, and I always felt that my work at the games department was my MBA.
As technology advances, so does the curious young visionary.
Somebody programmed a game called Space War, and that was out at MIT. And the software was brought over to the University of Utah, and that was the first video game. And people say, gee, Nolan, you invented a video game? I said, no, I invented Russell did from MIT.
So Nolan Bushnell graduates and heads out west, where the magic is happening.
I can hardly wait to get out of Utah. And if you're going to be an electrical engineer, and it's the late 60s, early 70s, you're going to be in Silicon Valley. This is the sound of the action.
It's 1970, and he's working double duty, engineer by day, video game creator by night.
Computer Space was the first game, and what I was trying to do was really bring Space War to a Cosmoid.
Computer Space was a monumental flop. Didn't make it to very many venues, and where it did make it, it wasn't very popular.
All my friends wanted it. All my friends were engineers. It was a little bit too erudite for the masses.
With the aid of Al Alcorn, another young engineer, Bushnell sets out to make his second game, a game that sneaks its way into history.
So I told him I wanted the paddle game, I wanted the ping pong, I wanted to go. And the ball would go back and forth, but I had actually defined it so that there was a button. So you position it, and then the button would swing a little racket. Well, Al got it to the point where it just had the 2 paddles, and it was knocking the ball back and forth. And it was so much fun, I said, stop, we don't need to go to the next step. And so we did, and the rest is history.
The rules of playing were quite simple.
Insert quarters, ball will serve automatically, avoid missing ball for high score. We named Pong just because you could know a ping pong game, and so we just truncated it and called it Pong.
It's time to debut the game, and Pong is placed in a Sunnyvale, California bar for testing.
When they called 3 days or 2 days after we put it in, there was a failure. We thought, oh, maybe we got a problem here. There was 3 quarters so it actually jams, and it short machine, and that's a problem we can fix.
In November 1972, the fledgling Atari Company ships its first commercial version of Pong. Shortly after, original partner Ted Dabney leaves the company.
We also had no money, and we were making factories out of, old roller skating rinks and various things. So we were scramblers.
They were also frisky young things.
They'd have their goals to shoot for, and then when they'd preach them, they'd have beach parties. Almost everybody went home with everybody else.
It was a loose atmosphere. I think that Nolan ran it more like a hippie commune than it probably should have been.
Everything was consensual, and so it was a really, really different time.
But the flip side was, it was a very creative environment, and a lot of good and interesting product came out of that environment.
In 1973, sales at Atari reached $3.2 million. While they awaited patent approval for Pong, others seized the opportunity.
We were heavily copied. It was a very successful game, but there was TV Tennis, Winner, all the big Chicago factories came out with the version.
Another innovative game from Bushnell raises lots of eyebrows, but very little money. It's called Gotcha.
It was really one of the first pornographic games I ever saw.
Everyone was talking about the phallic nature of joysticks. And so we thought, well, maybe it would be good to have
2 big pink rubber controllers on the face of the game,
in which you were manipulating breasts.
Some people went for it, some people didn't. Nolan was creative, there's no question about it.
Meanwhile, nearly 100,000 Pong-like arcade games are produced, yet Atari sells only 10,000 units. Nolan continues focusing on a series of other arcade games. But
college, I guess.
Bushnell pins his hopes on a home version of Pong.
Consumer Pong. Nolan says, boy, what a great idea. We took it to the toy show in New York, and we sold none. 0. So we went to the TV appliance stores. We sold none. 0. And so you say, what am I going to do?
By 1975, Atari, the precarious video game company founded by Nolan Bushnell, has experienced failure and incredible success, including the much-copied Pong. But Atari's eyes are on the future, and their next venture is to bring Pong into our living rooms. But video game companies slammed their doors on Nolan and his idea.
Everybody didn't like the sound of it. I had sales at that time. Heard that Sears had put a consumer pinball machine in the sporting goods department. And so we called up the head buyer from the sporting goods department at Sears, and he was on our doorstep the next day.
Sears wants 100,000 home Atari games for its 1975 Christmas season. Atari sales rocket to nearly $40 million. At last, Nolan Bushnell experiences financial freedom. Well, maybe not.
A growing company actually consumes cash. You can very seldom throw off cash fast enough to grow as fast as you want to. So it was either take the company public or sell it to somebody with really deep pockets.
Those pockets belong to Warner Communications. In October 1976, Bushnell sells Atari to the communications giant and personally nets a reported $15 million from the $28 million sales price. After years of struggle, Nolan and his family become the poster family for lifestyles of the rich and famous.
I said, I can earn it faster than I can piss away. You should never do that.
He enjoyed his toys, there was no question about it.
And Nolan's toy box includes 2 private planes.
Taking planes to go have lunch.
I remember arriving at a place and the door opening, diapers falling out.
Sailing all over the place. I had a house in Woodside, a house in Aspen.
Oh, it sounded more glamorous than it actually was.
I had a house in Georgetown, and I had a house in Paris.
Nolan was a guy that wanted to play with his money. He wasn't a guy that was interested in making more money.
The house in Paris was a 15,000 square foot place in the park right next to the Eiffel Tower. And it was fun. It was just fun.
For Nolan Bushnell, the merger may have cost him his voice.
Of course, after the sale, your bubbles get popped one by one by one by one, and a lot of your pet projects get killed because they don't see the future.
Atari continues to dominate the arcade business with popular titles that include Breakout and Night Driver. Yet there are now more than 70 versions of the Pong home game. But Bushnell has an idea, and it's called the 2600.
In the home game business, we thought of a single game, and Nolan said, no, this is a business that we have to be able to treat it like a record player and put new records in.
Demand for the new console is weak, and Bushnell's unhappiness reaches a peak in November 1978.
I felt that the company was taking some foolish risks. At the same time, I felt, I kind of didn't want working for somebody else.
Nolan's exit as head of Atari is quickly arranged, but a document he signed 2 years earlier would haunt him. The non-competitive agreement bans him from the industry he helped create.
When I signed it, I had no idea that I'd ever want to leave Atari. It just was not on my radar screen. It was only later on where I said, oh my, what have I done?
Atari would go on to even greater success, but its founder, unable to work in the business he loves, has no choice but to shift his energy elsewhere.
Nolan always fancied himself as an entertainment guy, not as a video game guy.
And by that time, Chuck E. Cheese was doing well. So Chuck E. Cheese was starting inside Atari. I didn't want to pursue it until I bought it out.
It becomes the place that adults hate and kids love.
Culinary aspects just didn't seem to matter to Nolan, and I think he's wrong.
I don't eat at Disneyland. I don't eat at amusement parks. So, and Chuck E. Cheese was an amusement park.
Kids don't like spicy. They just assume you have plain cheese pizza.
The chain becomes known for its arcades and animated characters, including its namesake. Can you say Chuck E. Cheese without smiling?
Because we wanted to smile. Chuck E. Cheese. We wanted to smile. We wanted this name so that you couldn't say it without smiling.
But kids don't care about the bad food. They just want to play games. Chuck E. Cheese is soon franchised into 180 locations nationwide.
I remember going to a couple of the openings. It's just fantastic. I mean, it was really blast.
But Bushnell can't stay still for long, and his eyes once again lock onto the future. He forms a venture capital group that backs innovative ideas. Some say too innovative. There's shopping on computers.
Buy video and enjoy the newer shopping experience.
That was so early in the days of computers.
The technology was great. We used Laserdisc players that in the early days of the Laserdisc, the machines were buddy.
And automobile navigation systems.
I felt that people could drive more efficiently.
That was incredible. And we had those in our cars.
It would take a lot of stress out of driving.
And I always thought, I don't know how I lived without this before.
But his favorite and most enduring dedication to futuristic technology is the personal robot.
Now, that was a fixation I didn't share with Nolan.
We joke, though, that I do have this robot fish. I mean, I really love robots. And I've lost a lot of money pursuing that.
My question was, why do you want a robot to go get a beer out of the refrigerator?
She says that she wants to put me in a robotic concept program.
While Nolan concentrates on his robots, another venture is about to go under.
His brilliance can at times be a distraction and can diffuse the focus of his attention.
I had turned over the running of the restaurants almost 8 months before that. And I've been focusing pretty much on sailboat racing and the game side of the business, and really not watching the pizza side. They try to make the pizza better. I think it's a problem, isn't it? The costing too much money, kind of threw the whole business model out of whack. And we said, we're going to miss our numbers. We're not even just miss numbers, we're going to report a loss, which I thought was just absolutely impossible. Just not possible.
By the mid-1980s, the innovative Nolan Bushnell has made and lost a fortune.
Our family, we really managed to kind of roll with everything. Like we've definitely hit some super hard times.
The fact that Nolan has had his ups and downs is one thing. Nolan deserves to be as economically successful as Walt Disney, and Nolan truly deserves more than what he has.
His fascination with the future has cost him millions.
In many cases, I read science fiction and looked at the world, and my objective in life is to try to make the world happen a little bit faster. Sometimes the world is ready and the infrastructure is in place. Sometimes it isn't.
Although his personal robots never catch on, Nolan's furry animated creatures do.
I felt that there was a market for an electronic animal.
The thing about pets, baby, it does one too.
And so we created the Petster line.
And the AG Bear.
That I really liked. The idea that a child could, get a reaction from a teddy bear. I still think it's an incredible product.
It was a bear that you could believe was talking to you.
Hello,
I thought it was going to be successful, but I was surprised at how big a success it was.
He sells more than $15 million worth of animated animals. But Bushnell's next robotic toy, Tech Force, launches a controversy. Signals controlling the robot's movement would be transmitted to a children's cartoon series.
I think they felt there was somehow something subliminal going on, in which these controls, if they control the little guys, maybe they can control the kids. Maybe they can control us. I think that the whole idea is we can control things through the television set. It's frightening to a lot of people.
The protests helped derail the Tech Force toys and TV show. After years of dipping into other creative ventures, it's time for Bushnell to reunite with his first love, video games. He becomes a consultant for Hasbro, Bally, and a string of other top names, including one with a rocky past, Atari. Decades have passed, yet 3 of Bushnell's early inventions are still alive and still evolving. Newly configured Chuck E. Cheese is a smash hit again. Atari is now part of the Infogrames family, and Pong, the simple game that started a revolution, has entered a whole new dimension. But Nolan and his family have moved on to Ewing.
We started this together.
We are bringing the supply of simple games back.
A new project that brings him full circle with a twist.
Our games are very short form focused.
They're all 2.5 to 4 minute strategy parlor type games.
People that don't even play video games get stuck on these.
It's a new generation of video games to be played in public places. Let the interactive games begin.
We make touchscreen tournament games for bars, restaurants, hotels, airports. You put them in one of these locations and they dial to the internet so we can download the games to it, download trivia questions, and play national tournaments.
Decades ago, Nolan lost a fortune when his landmark game, Pong, was copied by others. There is concern that it could happen again.
It is my belief that Nolan's biggest competition will come from competitors that he spawned himself, who will take his good idea and take it to the next level.
But Bushnell is already looking ahead.
I'm still more focused on what I'm doing next. Like, the stuff that I'm going to come out within the next 2 or 3 years is going to knock your socks off.
I already know about several other ideas beyond Ewing that he's got in store for the future, and
he wouldn't retire. That's why he didn't retire back in the day when Atari was big and Chuck E. Cheese made it. He enjoys the game. He's the perpetual optimist, and I'm like really excited all the time, and it's impossible to get him down really. I mean, he's got like a fire from inside.
Nolan has pulled me in directions that I never would have gone, and I've had experience that I never would have had, and I think likewise. Well, I've always said that it's been such a roller coaster, but certainly not boring.
He is the guy that made the video game business. If I were to look back and talk to my kids and say who founded this business, who made this business the reality that it is absolutely categorically Nolan Bushnell.
You know, life is interesting as you want to make it, and too many people just decide to sort of settle. As long as you're not willing to settle, you can constantly be pushing the envelope, and you need to be a really, really good beginner. Because if you enjoy being a beginner, then pretty soon you can start a lot of different things. And I just feel like that's what I try to do. Be a beginner.
battles alien ships to abduct inhabitants of friendly planet. Yellow creature gobbles dots while being pursued through maze by monsters. Believe it or not, those things are really happening on 200 electronic video games here at Chicago Fest. What you see here is part of a national phenomenon that we call high-tech wreck, a phenomenon that had to happen when the TV set married the computer. It starts with a quarter, and it ends up as a national industry estimated at $7.5 billion a year. Video games. They seem to have captured America's imagination, and its pocket change as well. Right now, the country's two hottest games are Chicago games. There's Defender, a space battle game made by Williams Electronics on the north side. The object is to fly over your planet, shooting down the enemy spacecraft, which are trying to capture your humanoids. Defender is prized for its nifty sound and visual effects. In suburban Franklin Park, you'll find Midway Manufacturing, feverishly turning out 350 Pac-Man games every day in 3 different cabinet styles. Pac-Man is known as the cute game. A voracious little yellow globe gobbles up golden dots and various kinds of fruit, all the while being pursued by 4 hungry monsters, which can themselves be eaten at crucial moments. Both Defender and Pac-Man are wildly successful, and their corporate marketing executives think they know why.
So the video games are becoming more and more popular, and it's because today's generation grew up on television. They're diving at you, they're bombing you, and here you are, one guy fighting off the whole universe of aliens, and you do get a certain amount of thrill and excitement and a feeling of, boy, when you conquer this game, you really come away satisfied. We're only limited on video games by the video game designers and engineers' imaginations. Anything they can come up with, we can put on a TV set.
The big explosion in coin-operated video games began in 1979 with Space Invaders. It, like Pac-Man, was designed in Japan, where both games became national crazes. Williams Electronics projects $200 million in revenues this year. Midway expects to do at least that well. Both companies are riding the crest of the video wave that this year will see Americans drop 300 billion quarters into the machines. Tomorrow night, on part 2 of High Tech Wreck, we will meet a teenage video game wizard. We'll also talk to some psychologists about the possible side effects of playing these games, and we'll leave the Chicago Alderman wants to ban video games for everybody under the age of 18. From Navy Pier, Gary Burnson, News Center 5.
Move over Space Invaders, we found some new games. If you are a fan, we don't have to tell you that video games are taking this country by storm, keeping thousands of kids as well as adults glued to their flashing screens. But there are some people who are worried that the games could be having a negative effect on the players. Gary Burnson joins us now for part 2 of High Tech Wreck, and you talk about some of those negative effects that people were upset about.
That's true. In fact, some of the things that doctors are starting to see are Space Invaders Elbow, Defender Wrist, and Pac-Man Pinky. These are really coming into medical offices as the video game wave continues to build. We call them the side effects of High Tech Wreck. In coin-operated games, there once was a king by the name of pinball, but now 60 to 75% of the industry is video games. Yesterday's pinball wizards are today's captains of video. Mother's Pinball at the corner of Routes 14 and 83 in northwest suburban Mount Prospect. A lot of kids drop a lot of quarters in here, but despite the name of the place, Mother's Pinball, the current score is Pinball Machine 6, video games 45. George Macy is an average teenager who spends a lot of time here at Mother's, but not much money. He is so skillful at playing the game Defender that he can make a single quarter last for an hour or more by earning additional plays or attack waves. One day last month, at age 14, George racked up 1,774,125 points. No one else has ever come close, at least in the known universe.
Well, when you're playing the game, you always get the green men down at the bottom so that they don't pick up your men and turn into mutants, because when that happens, you can give up the game, because when you lose your world, there's no way of getting out of it.
The planet can blow up.
Yeah, the planet can blow up and you go into space. These videos are a lot more, probably the funnest thing is designing one. That's what I like to do the most.
There are those who say the impact of video games isn't all good. Dr. Sherry Turkle, a sociologist at MIT, says these games emphasize power, aggression, macho, and manipulation. We talked about that with 2 Chicago psychologists.
One of the things that makes people upset is that kids hang around and are obviously having a good time, and I think that people always get nervous when that's happening. So I think that some of the dangers are overstated. But if there's any danger in these games, it seems to me it's that breaking up of the social contacts, that's such a loner sort of activity.
Well, besides the feeling of confidence, I think there's also an added benefit of exposure to the video screen and getting prepared for the advent of the computer age.
Chicago Alderman Patrick Hewells believes that where there are video games, there could be trouble. In the residential areas of his Bridgeport ward, Hewells says some small unlicensed arcades have become storefront hangouts, breeding gangs and drug traffic. Hewells wants to ban the games in Chicago for people under age 18.
They're too close to the school, they're too close to the church, but they're in the middle residential zone, the kids congregating, people blocking the sidewalk, and just hanging around. We have fine parks throughout our city, and we have the Valentine Boys, but there's other forms of recreation that the kids can get involved in.
The Hewells game ban ordinance will probably come up before the City Council next month. And next year, the U.S. Supreme Court will decide whether such age restrictions are constitutional, a decision that's vitally important to the entire coin-operated industry and Pac-Maniacs and everybody else. You got it. It plays a long time for a quarter. Here in Illinois, a teenager has given up on his attempt to break the national point record for the Asteroid video games. Is that right, Barry Burnson? Okay. John Jones made more than 20 million points after playing for 41 hours on a quarter. The record is nearly 26 million points. So if you want to know anything about video games, this is the man that can tell you about it, Barry Burnson. Tonight you're going to give us part 3 on his report, High Tech Wreck. What is High Tech Wreck? Well, it's recreation that is high technology. Video game makers believe that their products are starting to attract a whole new market. Adults, especially women, who would not have been caught dead playing pinball. The competition in this industry is so fierce that game makers won't even tell me the names of their new games, which are due out in October. But we did manage to get a glimpse into the future. What Sam Dicker does for a living is to invent video games. He's one of the resident computer geniuses at Chicago's Williams Electronics Company. Last year, Dicker co-designed Defender, which right now is the #1 coin game in the country. Sam uses this computer for a process he calls birthing, developing new effects for games yet to be invented. The road from here to finish the video game may end up costing a company $1 million, but nationwide, Defender is currently earning nearly $8 million a week. What makes a good video game designer?
Well, you have to be a science fiction fan, you have to be a programmer, you have to be kind of an artist. We actually have to first please ourselves, and we're about the most finicky players around. We've played every game until we're bored of it. Just like a movie. You want to get lost in it. You want to forget that you're playing a game. You want to, when the game's over, you want to suddenly realize that you're in the arcade.
At Mother's Pinball in Mount Prospect, companies send their prototype games to be tried out in the field. Here, players can play games not yet available anywhere else.
We watch the players, we check to see how long they play the game. They'll tell us it's too fast, it's too slow, it's too easy to play, it's too hard to play.
Then there are the pirates, companies which illegally copy a successful game, undercut prices, and get out of the market before the legitimate manufacturer can take the case to court. This is the original Pac-Man. This is a rip-off version. In this business, timing is everything, for both player and marketing exec.
The life of a video game is basically 6 months to a year, depending upon the popularity of the game.
And as players roll up higher and higher scores, the video game companies will try to roll up higher and higher profits.
A new game being placed on location will always draw the player's first quarter. The secret in this industry is to get his second quarter, and his third quarter, and his fourth quarter, and his fifth quarter.
Well, the obvious question is, of course, how long will this smashing success last for video games? Well, there are plenty of new competitors in the field, each one taking more or less of the players' 300 billion quarters a year in this country. Home video game owners will soon be able to buy their own versions of Asteroids, Galaxians, and Pac-Man. So for the Video Warrior, it appears the sky is the limit, and we should know finally the U.S. military is about to start using modified video games to train aircraft pilots and tank drivers. High-tech wreck.
If you're infatuated with a machine, you can think of almost nothing else and just concentrate on it.
Steve Ritchie is a video game designer. How do kids get out playing a game? They bring anything beneficial away from it?
Definitely. I think some of the benefits are, it definitely improves your motor skills. Your reaction time can improve on a game from one day to the next, and it really tests them. You feel very satisfied when you're finished playing. You feel like you've accomplished something. You've beaten the machine.
While playing video games may have some benefits, this obsession with the games can also have negative effects.
Sometimes I'll go over at lunch and start playing the games and miss a class after lunch or something.
Has it touched into your grades at all?
I probably moved down about 1 grade since I started playing, 1 or 2 grades. Yeah, I'm about B's or C's right now.
How do your folks feel about it? I imagine you must have some kind of ambiguous feelings. You know, on one hand you're the champion, on the other hand your grades have gone down a notch.
I think they kind of like it because they always know where I'm at. They know I'm not causing trouble somewhere. They know they can just call the arcade or call the round table and I'll be there.
Not all parents are in favor of their children spending time and money playing video games. In several states, parent groups are trying to pass laws regulating the use of machines. We went to a town meeting in Burlington, New York, where the citizens were considering passing an ordinance to prevent young teenagers from playing the games and to restrict the number of games that would be allowed in town. The debate started because the local junior high school is located right across the street from a delicatessen, where the kids like to hang out when they're not in class. This year, the deli installed 3 video games, and some parents got concerned.
There were children stopping on their way to school in the morning at 8:15 or whatever, and playing a few games, and coming in a few minutes late to school because they were involved in the games. There were children using their lunch money. Instead of eating lunch, it was much more fun playing games and cared about lunch.
Although some of the kids admitted they spend up to $5 a day on games, they all thought it was unfair for the town to pass laws to stop them from playing.
Well, I don't think the town has any right to restrict us from using our money because it's our money. You know, I mean, the parents are one thing, but I don't think the town should do anything about it. I think it's up to the parents to make the rules, or the kids to make their own rules. I don't like it. It's supposed to be a free country, land of opportunities. I want opportunity for the game.
As it turned out, the town decided not to put an age limit on the games, but they did pass a ruling that would make it impossible for an arcade to open in Irvington. This isn't the first time rules have been passed against amusement games.
New York City completes a roundup of thousands of pinball machines, each valued at about $100.
In 1938, all of the pinball machines in New York City were confiscated and destroyed, and it was 38 years before they were legal again. But today's video game manufacturers don't seem worried. While individual towns may restrict the use of the games, overall, business continues to boom. There are 500,000 video games in the United States today, and industry sources say there will be a lot more. The real future of video games, however, isn't in the hands of either the manufacturers who are pushing the games or the parents who want to stop them.
The player, the person who is willing to spend the quarter, he's the dominant force.
Do you think that video games are going to be here to stay, or are they just a fad that's going to go away?
They'll be here to stay.
I think might die down a little bit.
I think they're going to be around for a long time. Because they say we're going to space age. These games are space age.
Do you think that they're here to stay, or is it just another loser?
Probably another loser.
No, I think they're going to be around for too many people have done them now. Not picking it that quick.
What are we going to see in the museum today, Barrett?
Well, something really ancient.
Like dinosaurs?
Kind of.
We're the first museum to exhibit and collect video games.
Carl Goodman, curator of digital media here at the American Museum of the Moving Image in Astoria, New York. Why would video arcade games be something to study?
Well, video arcade games certainly have nostalgia value for a lot of people, but also they're the first ways in which people interacted with the screen, people's first exposure to computers. And as long as there have been computers, people have been playing with them. And people are pushed to upgrade and improve their computers, not because of the latest spreadsheet, but because of the latest video game.
Now, when you get really good at this, we graduate to the color TV. Video arcade games came out around the same time as ATMs.
I'd say that video arcade games hit the public a little bit before ATMs, and instead of giving you money, they take your money. But certainly, we were talking about a time when computers were not in the homes or in the schools, but were kinds of things that had to be embedded in an object that you interacted with in a location. So what we have here, representing the period of 1978 to 1982, this is when video arcade games really ruled.
Kind of like Dance with the Machine, almost. You're more of an artist, in other words. Exactly. Like when you play it out, you're just kind of moving your hands back and forth.
You know, now that we know there was probably life on Mars, this training would come in handy. Okay, fire.
Got him. This is from 1971. It's Computer Space, the very first commercial coin-operated video arcade game. Was it successful? It was a disaster. However, the inventor of the game, Nolan Bushnell, took the meager earnings from the game and created Pong, which was a sensation.
The first Pong from 1972, and I love these very complicated controls.
Yes, well, they realized that simplicity was the key to this game because people were unfamiliar with video games. So
it's like a horizontal control knob on your home TV.
They took a very familiar interface and they applied it to a very unfamiliar experience.
Hello. Welcome back to Earth. I'm not doing it.
I'm Seth Rosenfeld. I'm the host of Lounge Arcade at Halcyon in Brooklyn. This got started because the owners of the establishment myself have been video game players since we were kids, and between the three of us, we had enough video game systems to actually bring them into the store and set up 5 or 6 stations so people could play games one evening a month.
Now, you don't live in Brooklyn.
No, I live in Manhattan.
I'm all the way here just to play video games.
Just for this, because you know, you got the great old controller
controls. You've got your basic joystick here, little single buttons to show what level you want to play out. This makes you jump, and I haven't figured out what this does yet.
That raises your hospital bed. What was your favorite old video game?
It would have to be Frogger and Pitfall.
Do video games mesmerize kids and make them more passive?
More passive-aggressive, probably.
Smurf color commentary, I guess the color commentary would be blue.
I guess so. Yeah, you can say that.
Here we go, take it away. Explain what's happening.
All right, well, basically, he's come out of his little Smurf right here, shaped like a mushroom. That has no psychedelic intent. A lot of people our age remember Ataris and the television game system, so nostalgia has a big pull to it. I remember having ColecoVision as a kid, and I mean, I haven't seen one of these in 15, 20 years.
You know, guys, when I was your age, there wasn't even any MTV.
You're old. Wow. What are we going to see in the museum today, Barry?
Well, something really ancient.
Like dinosaurs?
Yoink. Okay. egregious. 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 Bad, shocking, but in archaic terms it means good.
Right now we are at the King of Kong Arcade, world famous. Look at that. King of Kong Arcade. This is stage. Little gun action there.
Not very big.
And there we have it.
Oh man. This is a video, man. I'm tired of these videos.
We grew up in them.
Okay. I'll check this out. Why not? That's pretty cool, actually. Alright. King of Fighters. Tekken. Rolling Thunder is a good one. Alright, what is long? Okay. Time to read the book. Let's do like 100. Okay, so I have to read all this. We're going to take a short break.